So hello and welcome to this webinar about ISO 27001 NIS2 and DORA. So let's just wait a minute for everyone to join, and while we are waiting, I'd like to know actually where you're joining from. So I'm joining from Zagreb, from Croatia, and how about you? If you just let me know through a comment or through this chat pane, just send me a message, and yeah, I just would like to know where all attendees are coming from. Okay, while we are waiting for your responses, just a couple of notes. First, we are recording this webinar, and you'll be able to watch this webinar basically from the same page where you registered. So if you are registered for the webinar, if you're watching the webinar through LinkedIn or through YouTube, then you will be able actually to watch the recording on the very same page. If you join the webinar through Zoom, then you'll be able to watch the recording of the webinar on the same page where you registered on Advisera website. So basically, recording will be there. A second thing, you'll be able to download this presentation deck, and I'll explain actually how to download it at the end of the webinar. So if you can, please stick to the end of the webinar, and then I'll explain you where and how to download this PDF presentation. Okay, so I think we can start. So welcome again to this webinar, how to use ISO 27001 to comply with NIS2 and DORA. My name is Dejan Kosutic, and I'm the main ISO 27001 NIS2 and DORA expert at Advisera. And Advisera is a company that makes compliance with these cybersecurity frameworks easy to understand and simple to use. And the webinar today is streamed through Zoom, LinkedIn Live, and also YouTube Live. And it will last approximately 45 to 60 minutes, depending really on the number of your questions. And by all means, please do ask as many questions as you want. You actually can ask my questions during my presentation, so you do not have to wait for this Q&A session at the end. And I'll try to answer your question even before the Q&A session. Okay, very well. So let's move on to the next slide. So why is this topic basically important? Because as you will see throughout my presentation, NIS2 and DORA are quite new frameworks, and there is not much published about them. Not nearly as much as for ISO 27001. And ISO 27001 does have lots of similarities, especially with NIS2, not so much with DORA, but you can certainly learn a lot from 27001 and use these things for NIS2 and DORA compliance, and therefore it's good to know how they overlap and where you can use them. And just to show you this point, I actually made a poll on LinkedIn, and the poll question was, if your organization needs to comply with NIS2 and DORA, are you planning to use ISO 27001 as a baseline? And as you can see, actually 89%, so roughly 9 out of 10 respondents actually answered yes. So basically, it's obviously something that many people are certainly considering to be important. Okay, very well. Now let's go back to my presentation. Okay, so what I'll be presenting in today's webinar is how you can actually, where you can use this, in what elements you can actually use this 27001 for when speaking about NIS2 or DORA, and which I would say areas 27001 is not really useful. And of course, this webinar today is important, if you are working for a critical infrastructure company and you need to comply with NIS2, if you are working for a financial entity and need to comply with DORA, also if you work for IT suppliers to these companies that are in the scope of NIS2 and DORA, and also if you're a consultant and simply want to I would say, do your job and basically help other companies become compliant with these frameworks. Good. So I would say, as I mentioned before, 27001 does provide a very solid, let's say, framework or a baseline for NIS2 and DORA. And not only for these organizations that are directly in the scope of of NIS2 and DORA, but also for their IT suppliers. And I would say especially for IT suppliers, and this is something that I'll explain as we go through the presentation. Good. Now let's just move on and let's see the agenda for today. So first I'll show you this mapping between. So in the first part I'll go through NIS2, and then in the second part I'll cover DORA. So with NIS2 I'll start with this mapping between 27001 and NIS2. How this 27001 can be used for critical infrastructure companies, and also how 27001 can be used for suppliers of critical infrastructure companies, and then the same thing for DORA. First of all, mapping 27001 with DORA, and then how or whether you can use, this is a question now, whether you can use 27001 for financial entities, and how to use 27001 for suppliers of financial entities. And then we'll end up with the Q&A. And by the way, you can let me know through chat if you want any of these topics, if you want me to focus on any of these topics. So just let me know so that I know where to spend more time at today's webinar. All right, so let's now go for this table that I made, because there is very often a big misunderstanding on who needs to be compliant with what, and this is why I made this table, just to kind of make it clear. So first of all, you have these financial entities, right? These are banks, investment banks, insurance companies, and so on and so forth. So basically the whole financial sector in the European Union. And the thing is, these financial entities need to comply with DORA, as you can see it says here, and also these RTSs. So RTSs are regulatory technical standards. I'll briefly explain them when I come to this slide about DORA. But the thing is that that is important is basically that these financial entities need to comply only with these DORA and RTSs, and with nothing else. So no compliance with NIS2, no compliance with 27001. Now, there are these suppliers, or better to say IT suppliers to financial entities, and they do not need to comply with DORA. This is what is important to understand. These IT suppliers for financial entities, they have to comply with security clauses in agreements that they have signed with financial entities. So, not directly complying with DORA, but with security agreements, plus they need to comply with security standards. As I'll explain later, DORA doesn't specify which security standards, but 27001 is usually the obvious choice. So basically, these are the two things that IT suppliers for financial entities need to comply with: security clauses and a security standard. Then when we speak about critical infrastructure companies, they have to comply with NIS2 and basically the local NIS2 laws. Just to explain this briefly, so NIS2 is a directive, so it's a kind of a baseline, and then each EU country have to publish their own local cybersecurity law based on NIS2, and this is what these critical infrastructure companies must comply with. Okay, they don't need to comply with anything else. No DORA, no 27001, nothing like this. Now, there is also, I would say, a special category of critical infrastructure companies. These are digital critical infrastructure companies, so like cloud providers, I don't know, social media providers, these kind of companies. They also have to comply with NIS2 and local NIS2 laws, but they also have to comply with this CIR, which stands for a Commission Implementing Regulation, and it's a CIR 2024-2690, so 2690. They also have to comply with this CIR. I'll show you later on how it looks like, but I'm just giving it a kind of an overview now. Now, if a company is a supplier to any company that is in NIS2 scope, so to a critical infrastructure company, they don't need to comply with NIS2, don't need to comply with CIR, don't need to comply with DORA. All they need to comply, again, are security clauses in agreements with these companies that are in NIS2 scope, and also with security standard. This is very similar here to DORA. NIS2 also doesn't say which standards, only that these standards are security standards, so in most cases this will be ISO 27001. Now, other companies that are not related to NIS2 or DORA, that are not their suppliers, of course, they need to comply with security clauses in agreements with whomever they're selling their products or services to, and if they want, they can comply with, let's say, security standards, but there is no obligation for such companies to comply with any security standards. Okay, so I see a question from Vinod. Do APAC region uses NIS2 or DORA? So I assume that by APAC you mean the Asia Pacific, but basically, so NIS2 and DORA are European, or better to say European Union cybersecurity regulation and the directive. So NIS2 and DORA are applicable only to the countries of European Union, or better to say these financial entities and companies that operate in European Union. Now, ISO 27001 is an international standard, so basically it's applicable, I would say, worldwide. Okay, good. Now let's move on. Okay. Let me now. We'll share now with you a couple of links that will help you with these topics. So the first one will be who must comply with DORA regulation. So there you will see in this article on Advisera website, you will see a much more detailed list of which kind of financial entities need to comply. And just to mention, if you join this webinar through Zoom or through YouTube, then you'll be able to click this link and open it in your browser. You'll find the link in the chat window. Now, if you join the webinar through LinkedIn, then because of some limitations in LinkedIn, you can't really click this link. So a workaround for this will be that you simply copy this URL and paste it into your browser, and you will see the link. Okay, the second link that we've sent you is this article, which IT companies need to comply with DORA and how. So it will also give you an overview of basically what these IT companies are and what are the requirements for them. And the third one is which companies must comply with NIS2, essential versus important entities. There you will see these 3 criteria and basically which specify which companies need to comply. So if you open these articles, you'll see much more detailed further information about these topics. Okay, now let's move on forward. So let's now switch to a topic of NIS2 and these critical infrastructure companies. So so NIS2 as a directive is focused on these 18 sectors, and these are the 18 sectors that the European Union considers a critical infrastructure. Now again, if you want to see these 18 sectors, simply open the last link that we've sent you, and there you will see a breakdown of all of these sectors. Okay, now the thing is with this NIS2, it is not specific on how to implement cybersecurity, and I'll actually show you now what it says. So just let me switch the screen. Okay, and let's go here for this full text of NIS2 directive, and you can also find this on our website, and we have sent you now the link to this full text of NIS2 directive. Anyway, it has something like 40 or 50 or 60 articles, I'm not sure. Okay, 46 articles. Now, out of these 46 articles, actually only 3 articles are really relevant for cybersecurity, and this is about governance, cybersecurity risk management measures, and reporting obligations. Now, I don't want to take too much time here, so I'll open, let's say, this risk management measures, and here you see the text. Okay, so essential important entities take appropriate and proportional technical organizational measures, and so on. Yeah, so basically this is about risk management, but most important here is this this paragraph 2, which speaks about these measures. And then you can see, it lists policies on risk analysis, information system security, incident handling, business continuity, but it doesn't say anything else. It doesn't say, how you need to implement this incident handling, or how you need to implement this business continuity. So basically there is no further information on what you really need to do about these things. And yeah, as you move forward, you see no further explanation. Now going back to, I'll show you actually which other documents related to NIS2 do show some more details. But let me first switch back to my presentation. What NIS2 does is it encourages the use of international standards, not only for suppliers, but also for these companies that are in a NIS2 scope. And 27,000 series is mentioned in the preamble of NIS2. So preamble is a kind of an introduction to NIS2, but it's not mandatory, right? However, this 27,001 standard maps very well with articles 20 and 21, and I'll show you this in the next slide. But article 27,001 does not map very well to article 23, which is about reporting obligations. So I'll show you this map in the next slide. But right now, let me show you this CIR, so this Commission Implementing Regulation, which is applicable for digital infrastructure companies. So let me switch the screen again. And I open this CIR here. As you can see, it's called Technical and Methodological Requirements of Cybersecurity Measures and Specification for Significant Incidents for Digital Critical Infrastructure Companies. It has, again, a smaller number of articles. However, it has this annex which specifies further details. So when I click this annex, here you will see a much more detailed text. So this section 1 in annex, it's about the top level policy. And as you can see, it's much more detailed, right? It goes in a very much detail on what this policy needs to include. Role, responsibilities, authorities, then risk management policy or risk management methodology. Again, lots of text here on what it needs to include. Compliance monitoring, independent review, incident handling. Let me see further what is here. Business continuity and crisis management. So it says here about business continuity, disaster recovery plan, and so on and so forth. So building, I would say, on NIS2 as a foundation, this 2690 is much more detailed and provides much more, I would say, requirements when it comes to cybersecurity. Okay, and the last thing is that, as I mentioned, each EU country must publish their own laws and regulations based on NIS2. This is called NIS2 transposition. So transposition means that countries are publishing their own laws. And you can actually find the articles on our website which explain more how to find basically more details about these local laws. So when you go for this page, it's called NIS2 Where to Start. You can see also the link in the chat window. When you scroll down, you will see here transposition to local laws, and then you can see these articles which explain, okay, Italian law, Croatia's act, Belgium, Latvia, Lithuania, and so on. So basically, we are actually going to explain in detail and compare in detail these local laws for each of these countries. Okay, good. Now going back to my presentation. Yeah, let's see now how actually 27001 maps with NIS2, and also explain you how it maps with CIR and some other things. So on the general level, 27001 maps very well with this Article 20 about governance, because it maps into Clause 5 about leadership, performance evaluation, and this clause is 7.2, 7.3 competence and awareness. So basically, if you want to comply just with NIS2, you can simply go for these clauses in 27001. Now for these, for the Article 21 that I was showing you a minute ago on the screen, you can actually use the whole Clause 6 planning. This is about risk management and setting the objectives. Also this non-conformity corrective actions, and basically the whole Annex A, right? So all these controls. There are 93 controls from NXA. You can use them basically to cover these basically cybersecurity measures that are mentioned in NIS2. And then Article 23 about reporting obligations, it's, I would say, much more precise, and really incident management controls from NXA does not really cover them good enough. So I wouldn't say that you could use ISO 27001 for covering this Article 23. Now, if the question is if you can use 27001 to cover this CIR 2690, I would say in good part yes. So when we analyzed 2690, we basically saw that it does follow the 27001 in most cases. However, in some let's say things, this 2690 is more detailed. It specifies some, let's say, it specifies some elements of the top level policy which are not really aligned with 27001. So you can still use 27001 as a baseline for complying with 2690, but it's not going to be enough. You'll still have to go through the whole 2690 and make a gap analysis and see if you have covered everything. Now, when it comes to all the laws and regulations that are published in European Union, unfortunately, each and every country is publishing, I would say, a different approach to cybersecurity. So, for example, you have some countries like, let's say, Greece, which only published their top-level law, but still did not publish their detailed regulation, which specifies, how to implement cybersecurity. So basically, this top-level law is very much aligned with NIS2, not much difference. And on the other hand, on the other, let's say, end of the spectrum, you have, let's say, Croatia, which has published both the top-level law and the implementing regulation, and this regulation is extremely detailed. So it's very, very detailed, very, very strict requirements, very, I would say, elaborately developed. So not very easy to comply with them, and they're much more detailed than ISO 27001. So if you're a critical infrastructure company in Croatia, I mean, you will find 27001 useful only as a starting point, but you still have a much way to go further than 27001. Somewhere in the middle, let's say you have Belgium, which also published this top-level law, and it also published their implementation regulation. But basically, this implementation regulation says that you can apply ISO 27001 as a standard, as one of the options. There are basically 2 or 3 options. So one of the options is to implement ISO 27001 and therefore actually comply with all the Belgium's requirements for information security. So as you can see, unfortunately, different countries have different approaches, and depending on which country you're in, you can use 27001 more or less for compliance with NIS2. All right, we'll also share a link with you now for this article. It's called How to Implement NIS2 Cybersecurity Measures, mapping with 27001. So you can take a look at further about what I was presenting here. Okay, now what about suppliers to critical infrastructure companies? So when I say suppliers, I mean primarily IT suppliers. So let's say that you are, I don't know, selling them hardware or software or, I don't know, cloud services, whatever. So as I mentioned before, suppliers that provide these services do not need to comply with NIS2. So there is no such requirement. However, NIS2 does say that these suppliers have to get certified. It's not very specific on how, but basically it indicated that there are 2 potential approaches. One is this European Cybersecurity Certification Scheme. This certification scheme is run by ENISA. ENISA is EU Cybersecurity Agency. And the other, let's say, basically way is simply to comply with international cybersecurity standards. Again, NIS2 doesn't mention 27001, but since 27001 is the, I would say, most popular international cybersecurity standard, then this is, I would say, probably majority of these IT suppliers will go for 27001. All right, and yeah, so basically NIS2 does say that critical infrastructure companies need to assess their suppliers, they need to assess vulnerabilities, they need to assess overall quality of products and services, and they need to assess their secure development procedures. So, summing this all up, if you are an IT company that supplies any critical infrastructure company, then I would say ISO 27001 would be probably the safest way for you to be compliant for any future, I would say, demands of your buyers. And we'll share now with you this free download. It's called Project Checklist for ISO 27000 implementation. So if you're this IT supplier, if you want to be compliant, so you can download this project checklist, just to kind of give you a guideline on what you have to do. Good. Now let's switch to DORA and financial entities. DORA as a regulation, which is, by the way, directly applicable to financial entities. It's not a directive like NIS2, it's a regulation, which means that EU countries do not have to publish anything further, so it's directly enforceable. It's much more prescriptive. So let me show you how this looks like. Let me share the screen again. Okay, so this is the text of DORA regulation, and yeah, you will see the link also now in the chat window so that you can open it as well. So it's yeah, again, maybe 60, 70, I'm not sure how many articles there. Yeah, 64. Now the thing is that basically you can actually the most important chapters that are important for financial entities are these chapters 2, 3, 4, and 5. So chapter 2 is about risk management, chapter 3 about incident management classification reporting, chapter 4 about digital operational resilience testing, and chapter 5 about managing ICT third-party risk. Now when we actually go and see what it says, so let's go for this, let's say governance and organization. And there you will see that it's much more detailed. So it specifies in, I would say, a full page. It specifies what are the responsibilities of the senior management, right? So the management body of the financial entities shall, and then several items from A to I. Everything that this senior management needs to do, right? And then when we go for Article 6, ICT risk management framework. What it contains, again, lots of text here. Then ICT systems, protocols, and tools. Okay, this one is short. Identification, so basically how you list all of your processes, assets, all of things. So again, much more detailed than ISO 27001. Sorry, than NIS2. Now, DORA is actually not the only regulation that applies to financial entities. There are also these regulatory technical standards. So you can consider these regulatory technical standards as appendices to DORA. And these RTSs then specify even further details about the implementation. So I'll show you this CDR, it's called CDR 2024-1774. Now it specifies in even more detail cybersecurity measures. You'll see also the link now to this CDR. And here I can show you some of these. Let's say ICT asset management policy. So let's see what it says that you need to do as part of ICT asset management policy. As you can see, all of this here is the requirements for this one document that you need to have, right? So again, pretty much details, not only from DORA, but also from these RTSs. Okay, now going back to my presentation. Yeah, so DORA, as you can see, DORA is much more detailed than NIS2, but also more detailed than ISO 27001, and DORA does not mention 27001 anywhere as an obligation. So there is no, so again, NIS2 did mention this in the preamble, the 27000 series, but DORA doesn't do it anywhere. So it's simply not, I would say, 27001 is not as important for DORA as it actually is for NIS2. Okay, now going to what I also wanted to share now with you is this comprehensive guide to DORA regulation. So if you want to learn more about DORA and basically all the aspects of DORA, you can download this white paper about DORA, and then you will learn much more from there. Okay, now let's see how you can actually map 27001 and DORA. And going back to this statement from before, if 27001 is not detailed enough for DORA, then I mean, what's the use, right? Why would you consider even 27001 for handling compliance with DORA? And I would say that even though 27001 does not provide any details, not any, but it doesn't provide enough details, it does provide you a useful framework on how to handle such a very comprehensive cybersecurity compliance project. Because what is good about 27001, it puts all the things logically. And when you analyze what this logic is, mainly this is this logic of plan, do, check, and act cycle, PDCA cycle, that you typically find in all of these ISO management standards. And basically this PDCA cycle says that first you have to plan the things that you're planning to do, then you have to implement them, and then you have to measure them, monitor them, and finally you have to improve your whole system. And when you think in these terms about DORA, then it becomes much more clear on what you actually have to do with DORA and what are the logical steps to comply with DORA and how to handle such a comprehensive thing. So again, I would say that 27001 is not good for DORA about details, but it is good for, I would say, a big picture and how you manage such a comprehensive and complex regulation. Just to give you a couple of ideas here, so this planning phase, these are clauses 4 to 7 in 27001. You can actually use them to comply with articles 5, 6, and 8 in DORA. This do phase, this is clause 8 operation and annex A security controls, and then you can use them for complying with these various articles and chapters in DORA. And then if you have this check and act phase, clauses 9 and 10, you can use it for this article 13, learning and evolving. And basically, if you use this logic, then it becomes again clear, what are the steps in the implementation for DORA. And we'll share now with you this article. It's called 18 Steps to Comply with DORA Requirements. And we'll also share with you this article about ISO 27001 implementation steps. And if you want to compare these two articles and these steps, you will see that most of these steps are very, very similar. Why? Because the logic behind them is very similar, and again, this logic actually goes from this PDCA, plan to check and act cycle. Okay, good. Now let's move on to the next slide. Now, how about suppliers for financial organizations? And basically the term that is used by DORA is ICT third-party service provider. So this ICT stands for Information and Communication Technology. And basically this is, any company providing digital or data services to financial entities, right? So it's, software development, any kind of a managed service provider for a financial entity, any kind of cloud provider, but also telecom provider. So all of them are actually considered these ICT third-party service providers or IT suppliers, let's put it more simply. Now, basically, what do they need to comply with? they indirectly have to comply with these DORA articles, but essentially they have to comply with, again, security clauses from financial entities, signed with financial entities, and they also have to comply with these appropriate information security standards. Again, DORA doesn't mention 27001, but 27001, again, being the most popular standard, it's something that is kind of logical there. And then there is also a special category of these ICT service providers, and they're critical ICT service providers, where they have some additional requirements, and amongst these requirements is the supervision from government bodies. So basically these critical ICT suppliers will have to be supervised as well, but again, they will also have to be compliant with security standards. Okay, so this is basically the story. So again, just to summarize here, if you are a supplier to a financial entity, IT supplier, I would say also 27001 is probably the safest way for you to actually maintain your cybersecurity, let's say, posture or expectation from a financial entity. So if you go for 27001, you will not go, you will not do anything wrong. Of course, they might actually require from you some extra standards, but 27001 is always a good, I would say, baseline. Okay, now let me show you a couple of tools that you can use to comply with all of these frameworks. So let me switch the screen. Okay, so first of all, I'll show you these documentation toolkits. So if you are a company that needs to comply with 27001 only, probably let's say like a supplier, then you can use this 27001 toolkit, which basically gives you all of these. It gives you exactly the steps that you have to take to comply, and it gives you all the documents that are needed for compliance. So, for example, here, risk assessment treatment, and basically when you actually open any of these, you will go into, start a wizard. This wizard takes you through a couple of questions and then creates document templates, complete documents together with your logos and everything that is personalized for your company. And it goes very quickly because this wizard actually suggests you these things that you have to answer. Let me actually show you how this looks like. So what is the name of the person to approve this document? What is the confidentiality level? Who is in charge of coordinating risk assessment and treatment? And it already says a risk manager. And it says here because I was already using this wizard for some other documents, and then it remembered that there is such a person, and then it suggests you directly like this. Of course, you can change this to anything else, and it also suggests you who this might be. So let's say CISO or something like this. And then you go actually through these answers and then simply download this document to your local disk. So this toolkit exists for 27001. Of course, it exists in several languages, like let's say this is French. But there is also this NIS2 documentation toolkit. Again, similar thing. So if you have to comply with NIS2, a set of documents, all of them are here. And you also have this local version of NIS2 toolkits. So let's say, okay, this one is in Italian. So if you have to comply with local NIS2 law in Italy, then you can simply use this NIS2 toolkit in Italian. Same thing for DORA. Let me find it here. So if you're a financial entity, again, you have actually a similar approach here. So here you have all the documents that are needed not only for DORA, but also for these regulatory technical standards. So let me just show you, for example, cybersecurity measures. Here you will see several documents that are included for cybersecurity. So for example, change management procedure, this one is mandatory, and you see exactly here what articles of the DORA are covered. So 9.4e, also this CDR 2024-1774, 12.2c, and Article 17, and also which control from 27001. So this is about documentation. Now we also have this product called Company Training Academy, which provides, this is a training platform where you can actually raise awareness and train employees within your company. So this is not intended for individuals. I'll show you courses for individuals in a minute. But this training platform is intended directly for groups of people within your company or for your whole company. And here you can actually see this lessons library. As you can see, there are actually more than 300 videos in this platform. And when you filter them out, you can actually see that you can filter them by, let's say, DORA specific videos, and then you see several DORA videos, or you can also filter them out by, let's say, by country. So let's say that I want to see videos in French, right? And then you see, so there are several languages also available. And then when you want to set up a new training, so you click create a new training, and then you simply say, okay, I want to set up cybersecurity awareness program, let's say for mid-level management. I click continue. I want this, you can select here a country and the language. Let's say I want this worldwide. I don't care about the country. And then actually suggests, for this particular target group, it suggests the appropriate videos, because you don't want that all the videos are seen by everyone in the company. You want these videos to be adapted for that they are role specific. And then the system automatically suggests you all the videos that are, let's say, appropriate for mid-level management. And then, of course, you can take a preview of each of these videos. Okay, and as you can see, most of these videos are around 5-7 minutes, up to 10 minutes, and they're intentionally made short because we have this logic of micro learning, because we think that it's important that that people, employees, do not lose focus when watching these videos, because what you don't want is really to get a resistance from employees. You want this to be quickly done so that they're not, I would say, they're not getting bored. Anyway, you can of course remove any of these. You can change the sequence of any of these and so on. And then the next step will be about setting the frequency. So you can say that you want them to see this, let's say, once per week, let's say on Wednesdays, and let's say that you want to repeat this every 2 years. Then click continue, and then you add your email address. Not your, but email address of all the employees that you want to attend this training. And then finally you define what you want to show, let's say videos and quizzes and test questions, and then you activate the program. And basically what the system does, then it starts sending these email notifications to these users. And once they start watching these videos, you actually get all the results, all the training records in the dashboard, so you can very easily see if everyone is compliant. Okay, the third product I wanted to show you are these online courses, and basically they're online courses for DORA. So there is this foundations course, internal auditor course, and lead implementer course. So if you want to learn about DORA, you can go for these courses. For 27,001, there is this foundations course, lead auditor course, transition course, internal auditor course, and another one, lead implementer course. So basically, these are all the courses that we have. Now, good thing for about these courses is that you can enroll for free. So you can go for the whole course for free, and then we charge only for the exam. So if you want just to learn without the certificate, this is free. If you want to get a certificate, and then you have to pay for the exam and then get the certificate once you pass the exam. Okay, so this is I try to be short about this, just to show you what kind of just to have this that you know what you can use to help you out with these frameworks. Now let me go back to my presentation. Okay, now and in the comments you can see the links to all of these products that I was showing you. Good. Now let's go through a couple of main challenges that people typically have with complying with these laws and regulations, and then I'll move on to the questions that came. So I noticed that already a couple of questions are coming in. So one is the challenge is this senior management engagement, and yeah, I know that in many cases senior management is not really happy to deal with cybersecurity because they think this is let's say IT problem, not senior management problem. And basically the way to kind of get them engaged is first of all to present them what are the requirements from NIS2 and from DORA, depending on whether you're a critical infrastructure company or a financial entity. And one of the ways actually to do it is to use a product like this where you can actually teach them through videos what NIS2 requires from the senior management. There are a couple of videos in this company training academy around this. Why? Because it's easier to learn through a video rather than read the text, right? It's this is how it is. This is why people love YouTube and all these video formats. Of course, another way, to approach this is simply to say, look, these are the fines that we will have to pay if you do not comply, and if you don't give us enough budget. But I would say that this first approach is better if you educate them, because once you educate them, they will, I would say, I wouldn't say that they will appreciate cybersecurity more, but they will at least understand why it's important. Because when they understand it, they will give you more resources, for you to actually go for compliance. Okay, another challenge is applying minimum baseline requirements to third-party cloud providers. So yes, this is definitely a challenge, because if you're, a small financial entity or a smaller critical infrastructure company, you can't really expect, Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS to change, let's say, their security because of you, right? So basically this means the following: if you do not think that these providers are secure enough, then you have to choose some other smaller cloud providers that will be willing actually to adapt their security to what you specifically ask them to do. And this is how it goes. Again, it's hard to expect from these bigger players, IT players, that they will change because of your needs. But there are many other smaller niche players which are willing to do exactly like this, and which are adapting to these specific requirements from DORA and from NIS2. Okay, another challenge which is very common is that can a consultant act as a CISO, right? So because especially these smaller financial entities, smaller critical infrastructure companies that need to comply with NIS2 and DORA, they usually don't have their own internal security officer, and they don't have the budget to hire someone full-time. So the question is really, can CISO do this? And I would say it's not 100% clear yet, because some legislations, local legislations for NIS2 do require actually that you employ a person, but it's I think only in one country currently, not in other countries. So I would say in the majority of cases this will be possible. This will be actually acceptable that let's say a small organization of, let's say, 20 employees hires an external consultant that will act as a CISO or a fractional CISO or a vCISO, or whatever term you're using, and that he or she will work weekly, 20 or something like this hours, but not full-time, right? Because there is no need for a full-time CISO for such small organizations. So I would say in majority of cases this is a yes. And by the way, this is a huge opportunity for consultants, right, that want to specialize in this kind of a service, because this will bring them, I would say, continuous revenue. And by the way, this is one of the topics that I covered in my last webinar when I spoke about this case where consultants can actually gain continuous revenue from their clients. Okay, and also a question, can a consultant be responsible for managing external providers? I would say there are two cases here. So if you act as a consultant and help companies become compliant with the NIS2 or with DORA, and you're doing this as a one-off job, then I would say no, you can't really be responsible for managing external providers, because you're not acting on their behalf. You're simply helping them comply with NIS2, but you can't really, deal with, cloud providers and so on. However, a second case is if you, as a consultant, actually become a CISO, right, the previous bullet. In this case, yes, then you are authorized by the company to actually negotiate and handle third parties. So again, this fourth bullet really depends on the status of a consultant. If consultant has actually a managerial role, so to say, meaning this CISO role, then yes, otherwise I would say no. All right, so basically these were the challenges. So let me just move to a conclusion, and then I'll go for these questions that are coming in. So I would say ISO 27001 is a very established framework, and there is really a lot of knowledge there developed for it, whereas NIS2 and DORA are quite new and there is not much guidance there. So it does make sense to use 27001 as a baseline, as a, I would say, kind of a starting point, and then build on it base for, let's say, when you have to comply with NIS2 and DORA. When it comes to when it comes to IT suppliers, again, they don't have to comply with NIS2 or DORA. 27001 in most cases will be enough for these IT suppliers. And of course, you can use Advisera's products to help you out. So these documentation toolkits, this company training platform, and also these courses. And we already sent you the links to all of these, but we also send you now a link to schedule a call with our toolkit and training expert. And if you want, he can actually show you a short demo of any of these products. And you can actually schedule a call by clicking this link that we've sent you now through chat window. Okay, now let's move on to the Q&A session. I'll start answering your question in a minute. So if you have any questions, please do send them now. And while we're waiting for your questions, let me just go through a couple of announcements. So first, feel free to reach out directly to me if you have any questions, and we'll share my email now with you, so you'll be able to see it. A second thing, you can follow me on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you're on LinkedIn, I regularly post updates about cybersecurity, governance, compliance, ISO standards, these kind of things. So if you want to keep up to date, then you can check out my LinkedIn profile. And on YouTube, I publish lots of videos on ISO 27001, NIS2, DORA, but also how to use these online tools. So if you want to see how this works through video, then it's I suggest that you watch that you take a look at my YouTube profile. And there is also this Secure and Simple podcast, and this podcast is intended specifically for consultants and CISOs. And basically this is where I interview successful consultants so that you can actually learn from them on how to become a successful consultant or VCISO yourself. So if you want to hear these I would say experiences, first-hand experiences from successful consultants, then I would suggest that you take a look at this podcast. Okay, final announcement is that my next webinar will be about how to perform internal audit, cybersecurity internal audit for NIS2, DORA, and ISO 27001. And there I'll explain, how to create an internal audit checklist, how to collect evidence, all of these things. So you can see now the links to all of these where you can sign up for next webinar in the chat window. This next webinar will be next Wednesday at the same time as today. Okay, now let's see the questions that came in. So I received questions from Sigurdur. He's asking, how do we convince and argue management that implementing good ISO management systems are hidden treasure for each and every organization. Well, I'm kind of skeptical about convincing them that you will convince them that these are hidden treasures. So I don't really think this is possible, unless you have senior management that is really enthusiastic about management system. I mean, about ISO standards, but you can convince them about the benefits, right? So if you are, let's say, a supplier to financial entity or to NIS2 critical infrastructure company, then you can say, look, if we comply with ISO 27001, then this will be not only will we be more certain that we will keep this contract with these buyers, but we will also be able to get new clients from critical infrastructure companies or from financial entities. So I would, present this whole thing from this benefit point of view, and mainly this is, what senior management wants to hear is, how you reduce costs or how you increase revenues. So from these perspectives, you have to present these management systems. Again, I don't think they will buy it as a hidden treasure, but from the business point of view, if you show benefits, this will work. Okay, 2 questions from Greg. What about ISO 22301 business continuity? Is it a good addition to have it before, or is it easier to adopt after DORA? So when you take a look at DORA, it's basically 2 things. One is cybersecurity, other one is really resilience, right? And when you think about it, resilience really is ISO 22301. So to answer your question, 22301 is also very useful for DORA, not so much for NIS2, but especially for DORA, yes. And for example, when we created this DORA documentation toolkit, we actually took the documents both from 27001 and ISO 22301 and then built these additional requirements from DORA on top of them. So for example, you will see, business impact analysis, business continuity strategy, all of these things you will see also in this DORA toolkit. So 22301, I would say, is very useful for DORA, and I would not use it after you comply with DORA. I would actually use it as part of your implementation project. Okay, another question from Greg. I think external DPO is acceptable, but CISO is a more hands-on and operative role. Would you become a CISO for several companies? Well, probably not a question for me, but if let's say if someone has a rich experience as a CISO in some let's say big corporations and then went independent as a consultant, I do see these kind of people working as a virtual CISO or a fractional CISO for a couple of clients. Yes, why not? If they're not in a conflict of interest, of course. But I see this as a very good model, because again, if you have 15 or 20 employees, it's really not realistic that you have a full-time CISO. As well, it's not realistic that you have someone so knowledgeable who will also do something else in your company. Let's say that you have, I don't know, CTO acting as a CISO. It's also partially a conflict of interest, and it's hard to expect that a CTO will have all this knowledge and experience as a CISO. So it's very hard, and I do think that, again, for smaller companies, vCISO or this fractional CISO is a very, very good solution. Okay, Greg, thank you for a great presentation. Okay, thanks. I'm glad that you like this. Good, so I don't see any other questions coming in, so let me wrap up the webinar. So just a few words before we finish. As I mentioned, this 1-hour webinar was really too short to go too much details around NIS2 and DORA, and for that purpose, please do check out all the links that we have sent you, and of course you can check out also these documentation toolkits and this training platform. What I forgot to mention is that you can actually open a free trial. So you can open a free trial for any of these documentation toolkits, and you can play around with these documents. Basically, you will be able to download this demo version of these documents as part of free trial. And for a company training academy, you will be able actually to organize a full training for up to 10 of your employees, and it will work for 14 days. So you can really play around with a lot in these free trials. And yeah, these courses that I've shown, they are fully free anyway. Okay, regarding this PDF presentation deck, so in about 10 minutes we will publish the link to this presentation deck in the same page where you are watching the webinar now on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So simply, if you are on LinkedIn and YouTube, simply stay on the same page where you're watching the webinar. Don't close this page, and in 10 minutes you will see in the comment section, you will see link to this PDF presentation deck. And we'll also publish links, all of the links that we shared today. So if you didn't manage to open all of these links or copy them, then you will see also all of these links in the comments. If you join the webinar through Zoom, then we will send you a link to download the PDF presentation deck and also links to these other materials through email, and you will receive the email latest by tomorrow morning. And finally, you will see a link to a short survey. So it's very short. It's only 3 questions. So if you have time, please do fill it out just to so that I get a feedback on how am I doing in this webinar. And this would be all. Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed this webinar, and have a nice day.